Front and Center. Front and Center. A focus on important and significant developments affecting the lives of Filipinos, not only in the Philippines, but also those living and working around the world. Join us in Front and Center. Front and Center. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Welcome to Front and Center, where we focus on developments in the Philippines, legislation that provides policies and directions that strives to promote a better economy for the country, issues that concern the welfare and well-being of every Filipino. All of these and more will be Front and Center. You can watch this program live on our Facebook page, Radyo Pilipinas World Service. You can also hear us live on our audio streaming at Evox PBS receiver app. So join us for another edition of Front and Center with your host, Jerome Toledo.
Front and Center. Front and Center. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Bonoan out and Dizon in. Yesterday afternoon, Malacanang Palace has announced that President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has accepted the resignation of Manuel Bonoan as Secretary of Department of Public Works and Highways. The resignation will take effect today, September 1st, Monday. In his resignation letter, Bonoan expressed support for the administration's push for accountability, transparency, and reform amid ongoing investigations into anomalous flood control projects. The day before, the DPWH secretary posted a tape video message who said giving up his position is not the answer to the controversies hounding the department. And upon the resignation of Bonoan, President Marcos Jr. has appointed Transportation Secretary Vince Dizon as the new DPWH Secretary, and his assumption will take effect today. And speaking of that, Secretary Dizon has already taken his oath as the new DPWH Secretary today, as President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. presided the oath of office for Secretary Vince Dizon. And Secretary Dizon has been directed to conduct a full organizational sweep and ensure public funds are used solely for infrastructure that protects and benefits Filipinos, and to guarantee uninterrupted service delivery at the Department of Transportation, which Secretary Vince Dizon has left. The President has appointed Attorney Giovanni Lopez as acting secretary. Attorney Lopez was sworn in as Undersecretary for Administration, Finance, and Procurement in February this year. He previously served as Chief of Staff in the Office of the Secretary from 2020 to 2022 and held senior positions overseeing critical railway, aviation, and maritime infrastructure projects. As acting secretary, Attorney Lopez will ensure continuity and build upon the gains initiated under Secretary Dizon's leadership, particularly in advancing transport modernization and supporting initiatives that prioritize commuter safety as well as efficiency and seamless project delivery. And to further reinforce accountability, the President has established an independent commission to investigate these flood control anomalies. And that body that I'm referring to will conduct a comprehensive review of projects, identify irregularities and recommend accountability measures to ensure public trust in infrastructure spending. These decisions will reflect the administration's firm resolve to clean up corruption, strengthen institutions, and deliver honest and effective public service. While resigned, Congressman, or as we refer to the former Secretary Manuel Bonoan, Congressmen are still keen to invite him in the next House investigation on the flood control project mess. And speaking of that, the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee will conduct its own investigation this morning to investigate these flood control anomalies separately. So they will launch an investigation separately along with the House's own investigation. And House Committee Chairperson on Public Accounts and concurrent House Infrastructure Committee co-chairperson, Representative Terry Ridon, said on Sunday afternoon upon hearing the news that Bonoan has exited as the Secretary of DPWH, or DPWH rather, said Bonoan still needs to attend House hearings despite his exit from his position of the highly controversial department, the DPWH. In addition, many lawmakers in both houses or House of Representatives, like Representatives Leila de Lima, Percy Sendanya, received the measure well, stating that his resignation will pave a way on an impartial investigation in the name of reform in the agency, while Representative Mark Santos rejoiced the move, saying the President Marcos Jr. made the right decision to accept the resignation of Bonoan in the name of accountability and reforms. Meanwhile, in the upper chamber at the Senate, senators like Joel Villanueva, Erwin Tulfo, Ping Lacson, and Jinggoy Estrada, meanwhile, welcomed the move as it will help push the reforms needed and address the corruption in the department. And earlier, we mentioned about the establishment of the independent commission that President Marcos Jr. Has established to investigate these flood control anomalies. And this body will conduct a comprehensive review of projects, identify irregularities, and recommend accountability measures to ensure public trust in infrastructure spending. And in relation to that, in the last week of August, a certain group called Artikulo 11 called for an establishment of this commission to investigate the alleged corruption in government projects. One of its members, Attorney Jose Virgilio Bautista, the Secretary General of United Nationalist Alliance, has recommended that members of this commission must come from the clergy, retired magistrate, labor, or people with credibility and integrity. Also, member of this group, Lorenzo Erintañada III, the acting president of the Liberal Party of the Philippines, said that the fight against corruption should not stop at just saying, mahiya naman kayo, but chasing for accountability must be pursued through an independent commission to shed the light and find where the money goes, as Tanyada said in that press conference. And as for Secretary Dizon, all eyes are on him, not only by lawmakers, government officials, but the public and as we talk about the Filipino people, as he will assume the post today, as the chief executive has a marching order to him, which is conduct a full organizational sweep of the department and ensure that the public funds are used solely for infrastructure rather, that truly protects and benefits the Filipino people. And if we say a full organization sweep, it will mean a comprehensive and sweeping anti-corruption drive and reform efforts within the Department of Public Works and Highways. And that is what President Marcos Jr. expects from Secretary Dizon as he assumes the post today. And Secretary Dizon, like we mentioned earlier, has just sworn in as the new Secretary of the Department. And that would mean all private contractors and officials in the department colluded in the corrupt practices would be held accountable for all their deeds, for all their evil deeds, as I quoted. And they will have their day of reckoning. So apart from the independent commission, as well as investigations that will be conducted by both houses, so all of the anomalies will be uncovered and will be exposed to the public. And the end game, as we call it, the end game of all of these moves is to regain and restore the public trust in the Department of Public Works and Highways. And it must begin now, not later, but not tomorrow, but right now.
Front and center. Front and center. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
And before we head into our break, President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has issued Executive Order number 93, which implemented the 60-day suspension of the importation of regular milled and well-milled rice. According to the order signed by President Marcos on August 29, the suspension of rice imports will be from September 1 to October 30 unless shortened or extended. So that's up to the decision of the president in October 30 if he's going to end the rule or the order, or he will extend it. And that 60-day suspension does not cover specialty rice varieties not commonly produced by local farmers. And the order read that the DA is hereby directed to lead the and monitor the implementation of the suspension of rice importation and undertake necessary measure to ensure that the country's supply of rice remains sufficient during the period of suspension that is subject to existing laws, rules, and regulation. And under Executive Order number 93, the Department of Agriculture must work with the Department of Economy, Planning, and Development, or DepDev, and the Department of Trade and Industry, or DTI, and submit comprehensive reports on domestic rice supply and prevailing market prices. The three agencies are required to convene within 30 days of the EO's effectivity to assess its impact and recommend to the President whether to lift or extend the suspension. And the period of suspension may be shortened or extended as may be necessary upon the joint recommendation of the three agencies stated. And the new EO mandates the immediate issuance of the necessary guidelines that will be crafted by the DA in coordination with the Bureau of Customs and the DTI to ensure the effective implementation of the suspension order. And the DA recommended the suspension of the importation of regular milled and well-milled rice for 60 days, which will coincide with the peak of harvest season to establish or to enable the domestic market to absorb the local supply, stabilize prices, and help Filipino farmers sell their palay or unhusked rice at a fair and reasonable price.
Front and center. Front and center. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Front and center returns after these short messages, but when we come back, we will go out of the country as we would like to get the some developments regarding the continuing protests in Indonesia. We are going to speak with the Philippine Embassy in Indonesia to get some updates there. So Front and Center will be right back after these messages on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Itinuloy na po natin ang zero balance billing. Libre po. Ibig sabihin, ang serbisyo sa basic accommodation sa ating mga DOH na ospital, wala nang babayaran ang pasyente.
Ang dami pong challenge, hindi po namin alam kung saan namin kukunin, ganon, nag-iisip kung paano namin mababayaran. Siyempre po, masaya, super saya po dahil na zero billing po kami. Opo, malaking po talaga, malaking tulong po. Mabilis lang din po.
Bayad na ang bill ninyo. Uulitin ko, wala nang kailangan bayaran ng pasyente basta sa DOH Hospital dahil bayad na po ang bill ninyo.
Naiyak ako kasi sobrang saya. Maraming salamat po, Mr. President Bongbong Marcos Jr. Hindi kami nagkamali ng taong ihinalal.
Time to celebrate kulturang Pinoy. Tradisyon, musika, sining, literatura at iba pa. Anything and everything fun and Filipino. Ito ang Pinoy Kultura.
Experts say this, journalists write it, and we promote it. Sadyang malikhay ng Pinoy, yes? You hear that all the time. We merge dishes like sinigang na corned beef. We mash up songs for a laugh like Señorita by Shawn Mendes.
I love it when you call me Señorita. Pintig ng puso ko'y para sa'yo.
And Lumayo Ka Man Sa Akin by Rodel Naval. And there's the timeless practice of Pinoy parents naming their kids after their meshed names, like Jovelyn or Benjamin. Pero ang isa pang mahilig ko tingtingin ng Pinoy ay language. Mga salitang Tagalog na minerge or completely inimbento, pauso. Street words or slang, made-up words or familiar words with made-up meanings only a Filipino would know. Like praning, anyari, and some that have even made it to the Oxford English Dictionary, Like bongga, defined as flamboyant or excellent. Bahala na, balikbayan, high blood. Yep, they're in the Oxford English Dictionary. Look under Philippine English along with other Filipino coined words. The OED has an entire Philippine English piece on it. The first editions were plant or animal names like abaca and tamarao. Recent editions include kilig, pandesal, and traffic as an adjective, defined as marked by slow movement of vehicles or congested. Filipino lexicographer Danica Salazar says the Philippine-sourced editions legitimize Philippine English as a variety in its own right. The words that got in did so from observed use online in publications and through linguistic studies. It'll be interesting to see what other Filipinized words make it next. What about keri o marites?
Yan ang Pinoy kultura because our culture is cool.
Front and center. Front and center. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Welcome back to Front and Center here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service with me, Jerome Toledo. And as Philippine News Agency reported, the Department of Foreign Affairs advised Filipinos in Jakarta to remain indoors and avoid large crowds as violent protests continue across the country, or which is Indonesia. Nationwide protests in the country continues on the seventh day, and Antara News Agency reported that protests are also taking places in other cities like Bandung, Yogyakarta, Solo, Surabaya, and Makassar. And the situation has escalated since then as thousands of Indonesians took to the streets of those cities mentioned and expressed their sentiments against their government. And to get more details and to give us an update regarding the situation in Indonesia, as well as the situation of our Filipinos living and working in Indonesia, we have now on the line the Chargé d'Affaires, and also the acting head of post of Philippine Embassy in Jakarta, Indonesia, CDA Gonaranao B. Musor. Good morning from here in Manila, CDA Musor. Thank you for joining us in the program Front and Center on Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Good morning, CDA. Okay. I think we don't have a CDA Musor on the line right now.
I can hear you now po.
Okay. Can you hear me now, CDA Musor?
Yes, good morning po sa mga nakikinig po.
Ayan, magandang umaga po, CDA Musor. So, thank you so much for accepting our invitation to give us an update regarding the situation in Indonesia. Can you tell us po yung situation po sa right now sa Indonesia po as we speak?
Well, ngayon actually kararating lang namin ng office and so far so good no, on our way from our house to the embassy. Ano naman, business as usual, everything is calm. Although yun nga, we are monitoring if more riots will happen within the day. So yun yung tinututukan ngayon and we're happy na at least with the recent statement of President Prabowo Subianto, wherein he also addressed kung ano yung mga hinaing ng mga nagrarally. At least hopefully that will somehow contribute in ensuring that the situation will be calmer for today.
Mm-hmm. So, CDA Musor, can you tell us the brief story behind these demonstrations in Indonesia?
Well, yung riots started nung last August 25. So that was a Monday. So yun nga, ang naging root cause nung riots is yung balita nga na tinaasan yung mga yung pay hikes ng mga members of parliament nila, yung House of Representatives. And of course, nung nakita nga nila yung figures nga na this is more than 20 times yung minimum wage ng mga ordinary people in Jakarta, it led to widespread protests, and at the same time nga para nagpatong-patong na rin kasi apart from yung mga pay hikes nga ng mga members of parliament, of course since the Prabowo administration started, the country has been going through a lot of economic hardships. Maraming mga na-layoff, kulang yung mga job opportunities. So I guess yung parang riots talagang kumalat because of yung frustration nga from what's been happening nga in their economy. And then mas lalo pang lumala siya nung may namatay na isang motorcycle na delivery driver, si Afan Corniawan, last August 28. So mas lalo pang umigting yung rallies nung nasaksihan ng mga protesters nga nung namatay nga itong si Afan, who is an ordinary motorcycle driver nga. Actually, he was not even part of the protests. He was just there, may dineliver lang siya na pagkain yata, and then he just got caught up in the rallies, and then yun nga nasagasaan nung isang police na car. So parang naging rallying point pa nila yung pagkamatay nitong motorcycle driver.
And also CDA Busor, so these protests are continuing as of the moment as we speak right now po.
Yes, yun yung namin ngayon na baka magkaroon pa ng protest kasi nung last night nagkaroon pa rin, like I was just sent a video nga sa may South Jakarta. So meron pa rin, hindi naman buong Jakarta, but there are certain spots in Jakarta nagkakaroon ng mga riots.
And also yung I mentioned earlier po itong mga cities apart from Jakarta, which is Bandung, Yogyakarta, Solo, Surabaya, and Makassar. So itong mga places na po ito may mga protesta rin po ito. Tama po ba ito, CDA Musor?
Yes. Actually, apart doon sa mga nabanggit mo, pati sa Manado, Manokwari, even sa Bali. So yung mga ibang cities talagang sinugod ng mga protesters yung mga police station, and then like in Makassar pa nga is sinunog nila yung regional parliament building, which led to the death of 3 people. So more than just yung nagrarally, talagang sinusugod nga nila, sinisira nga nila yung mga parliament buildings or sinusugod yung mga police stations.
Okay, so they are focusing on raiding. These protesters are raiding government establishments across the nation, and at the same time, this is a nationwide protest. CDA Musor. So, how has the Philippine Embassy monitoring these protests?
Well, as early as Friday evening, naglabas na nga kami ng advisory to our kababayans in Jakarta, advising them nga. Well, not just in Jakarta, but the whole of Indonesia. Nag-advise them nga to stay indoors, to be always vigilant, and of course to avoid yung mga large crowds para to prevent themselves from being caught up in the riots. And then of course we also gave yung ATN hotline namin just in case may mga so far mga kailangan ng tulong. And I think the same also was done by our consulate in Manado. So far wala pa namang kami nare-receive na reports of any Filipinos who got caught up in this riots.
Okay. So again, no reports of Filipinos that is being directly affected by the demonstrations throughout Indonesia.
Yes, so far.
Okay. So with having said that, so what measures has the embassy taken po to ensure the safety of our Filipinos residing or visiting or even working sa Indonesia? And also ilan po ang mga Filipinos po natin dyan?
Well, right now, we have around more than 6,000 Filipinos in the whole of Indonesia. Yung nakatira lang sa Jakarta is around 1,779. So, maliit lang siya actually. And majority of these Filipinos are professionals, teachers, working in the private sector. So, we're happy na kasi nga some of these mga private establishments nag-establish na nga ng work from home arrangements. And then for the teachers naman, ngayon yung iba nag-conduct na lang ng online classes. So like just to cite an example, yung school where my daughter is going, sinabihan na nga yung mga teachers na wag na sila pumunta ng school and that to conduct their classes online. So at least we're happy na yung mga kababayan naman natin dito are well protected by their respective employers. And then, of course, we continue to monitor the situation. As I've said, we've already uploaded an advisory on our platforms, and we've also given our emergency hotline numbers just in case may mga kababayan po tayo na mangailangan po ng tulong.
Okay. So, in coordination with local authorities, CDA Musor, so how is embassy coordinating with Indonesian authorities such as the police and also the foreign ministry to ensure the safety of our kababayans?
Well, ano naman it's standard naman that of course the local government will provide security to the diplomatic corps. So kami naman ang ginawa namin is ngayon right now instead of implementing work from home arrangements, ano lang yung nag skeleton force. So only essential staff personnel and the officers are required to go to the embassy to report for work just in case lang na may mga kababayan tayo na sumugod sa embassy, mangailangan ng tulong, and even yung mga the usual consular services natin kasi open pa rin naman yun ang hindi lang namin pinapasok is yung mga locally hired employees natin, mga Indonesians, kasi sila talaga yung who will be most affected dahil some of them live actually very far from the embassy, and sila yung we don't want them to get caught up in the traffic or be caught up dun sa mga riots. So we advise na lang our local hires na wag na pumasok. So mga essential staff lang and officers yun lang yung nandito sa embassy just in case may mga kailangan ng tulong. And of course, to ensure the business as usual pa rin in terms of the consular services.
So business as usual, though the Philippine Embassy is implementing work from home arrangements as well as essential personnel are allowed to work. So meaning to say, there's no impact on the day-to-day operations of our Philippine Embassy there.
So far, wala pa namang impact kasi yun nga, we also instructed our guards, security guards to be on the lookout to be and as of nung weekend nga, we were happy na wala namang na-observe na any suspicious activity, and pa lang yung traffic flow in front of the embassy is normal.
Okay. So if the demonstrations should the demonstrations persist, so how does the Philippine government have a plan for potential escalation of the protest? Would that constitute a repatriation for Filipinos?
Well, it's something that we have to consult with Manila. So kung for example lumala yung situation in Indonesia, of course we will have to implement yung travel alert to inform our kababayans na who will be going to Indonesia, whether for tourism or for business, to warn them. And then of course, siguro di pa naman naabot dun sa point na we have to evacuate our kababayans. Anyway, as I said, kukonti lang naman sila, and some of them are working for private companies, and these private companies have instituted their own contingency measures. So I don't think naman na aabot dun sa level wherein we would have to evacuate them. So siguro at the very least, we'll have to coordinate with Manila on the implementation of a travel alert status.
Okay. So you mentioned earlier na may mga lines of communication that our kababayans in Indonesia can use. So can you tell us itong mga kung paano yung mga mechanisms kung paano po marireach ang embassy? Should they need assistance?
Yeah, we have several platforms. So we have our Facebook page, Philippine Embassy in Indonesia. We are also on Instagram. And then of course we have yung WhatsApp number namin is +62 811 887334. So ito po yung pwedeng kontakin po ng mga kababayan natin if in case they would need help from the embassy.
Can you mention one more time of the line of the WhatsApp number?
Okay. It's +62 811 887334.
3-4. Okay. So overall, our Filipinos are safe and sound, and also the Philippine embassy in Indonesia is operating as usual, business as usual, and it's not affected entirely by these demonstrations happening across Indonesia.
Yes, yes. So far, so good pa naman.
Okay, alright. Very well said. And we hope na maging safe po kayo dyan sa Indonesia, CDA Musor. And thank you so much for joining us in the program. And I hope we can have more discussions in the near future. CDA Musor, and have a good day.
Maraming salamat po.
Okay. And you just heard the chargé d'affaires of the Philippine Embassy in Jakarta, Indonesia. That's Gonaranao Musor. And also, he is the acting head of post of the embassy, of our Philippine Embassy in Jakarta, in Indonesia. So, again, the line number that our kababayans can dial so that if they need assistance from the embassy, that's 6 or +62 811 887 334. Again, WhatsApp number of the Philippine Embassy in Indonesia, that's +62 811 887 3334. And as a CDA Musor ensures and assures our Filipinos there in Indonesia is safe and sound, and there's no reported Filipino getting involved in that demonstration in Indonesia. So that demonstration is largely a anti-government protest over the pay hikes of their lawmakers. So Philippine Embassy in Jakarta, Indonesia is monitoring and closely watching developments in Indonesia as those protests are still raging and continuing on its 7th day. And with that, we now conclude this edition of Front and Center here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Together with our technical team from Miss Susan Aison, Hiro Lucero, and Justine Osias. And from the production side of Radyo Pilipinas World Service, this is your host, Jerome Toledo. Until next time, mabuhay.
You have just heard and watched Front and Center. Front and Center. Join us again for another edition here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Front and Center.